Hi, I'm Mei Ling, and I'm 29 years old. Growing up Asian American has its challenges, especially being Chinese American like me. I've faced some unfair treatment because of my background. I've learned to stand up for myself and not let discrimination bring me down. Life has taught me to be tough, so I can handle whatever comes my way. But sometimes people can still surprise me with their ignorance. Take my father-in-law, for example. He doesn't seem to understand how tough it can be to be different in America. Let me tell you about my family. My husband, Mateo, is from the Dominican Republic, and I'm Chinese American. We love exploring each other's cultures and traditions. Recently, Mateo's stepdad, Hiroshi, joined our family. He's also from East Asia like me, which I thought was cool. I was excited to have someone who understood my background. But things changed when Hiroshi came into our lives. Mateo and his mom, Sofia, started speaking more Spanish, especially when Hiroshi was around. At first, I didn't think much of it since Spanish is their first language. Plus, they weren't saying anything bad. I know because I speak Spanish too. I want to surprise my husband by learning Spanish. He really appreciates it when people do things for him, so I thought learning his language would make us closer. I kept it a secret for longer than I planned because I was afraid to tell them I could understand what they were saying. Even though I was getting better at Spanish, I was still scared of making mistakes and embarrassing myself. Maybe my fear was a good thing because when Hiroshi came into the picture, Sofia and Mateo started speaking Spanish more often. I thought it was best not to speak Spanish during those times. I mean, imagine joining a family with different cultures and feeling left out by everyone. Out of respect for Hiroshi and because we both shared East Asian backgrounds, I kept talking to him in English. I found it a bit strange that they were speaking Spanish more, but I didn't think much of it. That is, until I started hearing insults in Spanish that really surprised me. I remember that day vividly, like it just happened. We were all gathered around the table, ready to enjoy a meal together. The food smelled amazing, and we were chatting happily. But then disaster struck. I accidentally spilled gravy everywhere when I reached for the gravy boat. It was like a river of regret flowing across the table. You can imagine the chaos that followed. Sofia, my mother-in-law, started swearing in Spanish. Even though I'm not fluent in Spanish, I could tell she was saying mean things about me. It hurt, but Mateo, my husband, stood up for me. He told his mom that her insults weren't okay. Then Sofia said something that broke my heart. She asked Mateo why he was defending me when she thought I couldn't understand what she was saying anyway. Those words hit me hard. It hurt even more than her insults earlier. I felt so embarrassed and shocked that she would say something like that. It felt like she was used to talking about me behind my back in her language. I choked on my water, feeling overwhelmed. But Hiroshi, my father-in-law, comforted me. He reminded me that everyone makes mistakes and accidents happen. He even said there was more gravy in the pot, trying to lighten the mood. Hiroshi didn't know that it wasn't the spilled gravy that left me breathless. It was Sofia's hurtful words questioning my worth. I couldn't shake off the doubt that crept into my mind. Did I hear her correctly? Was I losing touch with reality? I couldn't believe that my own mother-in-law, who should have been supportive, would speak about me like that. After dinner, haunted by Sofia's words, I needed confirmation. I asked a Spanish-speaking friend and even used Google Translate. Unfortunately, my fears were true. Sofia had intentionally been rude and disrespectful. I couldn't understand why she felt that way about me. I kept my discoveries to myself for now, deciding to watch our family dynamics and wait for the right time to address this. The next morning, as we sat at the breakfast table, there was an awkward silence. I sat quietly, thinking hard, while the others chatted as usual. Sofia and Mateo started speaking in Spanish, unaware of the impact their words had. Suddenly, Sofia said something shocking. "I regret marrying this old, stupid man," Sofia said, unaware that I understood her words. My heart sank as I heard her. Once again, Sofia had revealed her true feelings, ruining our mealtime harmony. Meanwhile, Hiroshi chuckled and said, "I should learn Spanish so I can understand what you two are always talking about." If only he knew the painful truth behind their laughter. Sofia and Mateo pretended it was all harmless teasing, hiding the hurtful gossip they were sharing right in front of him. But the gossip didn't stop there. Mateo and Sofia continued, each comment more hurtful than the last. Let me give you some examples. They mocked Hiroshi's accent, mimicking his attempts to pronounce certain words. They laughed at his cultural traditions, saying they were strange or unnecessary. And they made jokes about his age, saying he was past his prime. As I sat there, I felt more and more uncomfortable. It was like watching a cruel game where Hiroshi was the target of their teasing without even knowing it. My heart hurt for him, knowing he was being hurt by his own family. This wasn't the love and acceptance I hoped for when our cultures came together. In that moment, I promised myself I wouldn't stay silent anymore. Sophia might have said hurtful things about me, but I wouldn't let her treat this kind old man the same way. I knew I had to address the tension in our family to make them see the value of our diverse backgrounds and the importance of treating each other with kindness. As time passed, I became more determined to expose Mateo and Sophia's unkind treatment of Hiroshi. Armed with my phone, I started recording their hurtful conversations during meals. I wanted to show them their behavior and its impact. With each meal, I discreetly captured their words, knowing they would reveal the truth. As their insults grew harsher, Hiroshi started to notice something was wrong. He and I were constantly left out, and it was clear something needed to change. As Hiroshi felt more excluded, his lively spirit dimmed. I tried to guide our conversations in English to include everyone, but Mateo and Sophia always switched back to Spanish, shutting us out. Their gossip and insults towards Hiroshi ruined the atmosphere at meals. When I listened to the recordings, I realized something heartbreaking. Sophia had married Hiroshi for his money, regretting that she couldn't inherit his fortune until he passed away. I was shocked by her greed, and Mateo, my husband, not only joined in the insults but found them funny, supporting his mother's awful intentions. The realization hit me hard. How could I have missed their true colors? These were the people I trusted to embrace and celebrate our diverse family, yet they had betrayed that trust. I knew I had to do something, not just for Hiroshi's sake, but for the respect and love our family deserved. Late into the night, I listened to those recordings, steeling myself to confront Mateo and Sophia with the evidence of their cruelty. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't let them continue hurting us. As I planned my approach, I promised myself I wouldn't let their toxicity ruin our lives any longer. Hiroshi deserved better, and so did our family. Determined to make a change, I geared up to confront Mateo and Sophia about their hurtful actions. But before I faced them, I knew one thing. Hiroshi needed to hear the truth first. He deserved to know. Gathering my courage, I approached Hiroshi, sensing his heavy heart. With a comforting smile, I asked, "Hey Hiroshi, how are you holding up?" He sighed and met my gaze, his vulnerability clear. "Mei Ling, it's been tough, honestly. I'm having a hard time fitting into this new family setup. The constant use of Spanish makes me feel left out, like I don't belong. Maybe I should consider those Spanish classes after all." Understanding his struggle, I nodded sympathetically. "I hear you, Hiroshi. It's been bothering me too. But there's something important I need to tell you." He looked intrigued, curious about what I had to say. "What's on your mind, Mei Ling?" Taking a deep breath, I confessed the secret I'd been keeping. "Hiroshi, I understand Spanish. I've been following every conversation Mateo and Sofia have had. They didn't know because I never joined in on the Spanish talks. I kept it to myself because I felt nervous and embarrassed about my language skills, but I do understand them completely." Hiroshi looked surprised. "Why didn't he tell them? I'm sure they would have helped you with your Spanish." I smiled sadly. "You're probably right, Hiroshi. I was just nervous and embarrassed. I wanted to surprise Mateo once I learned enough Spanish to have a real conversation, but I kept delaying it, worried he wouldn't be impressed. Still, maybe it's a good thing I didn't tell them." "Why do you say that?" "By keeping this secret, I was able to hear their conversations, and what I heard wasn't good. He had been talking about you behind your back, saying hurtful things. The language barrier protected them, but now they'll have to face the consequences." Hiroshi looked confused and concerned. "What do you mean? What have they been saying about me?" I took his hands in mine, speaking firmly. "Hiroshi, they've been making fun of you, mocking you, and saying mean things about you. It's been happening for weeks, and it's terrible that they can talk about you like that." His eyes showed a mix of surprise, hurt, and gratitude. "I don't know what to say. Thank you for telling me the truth. I never thought they would do something like this." "What exactly have they been saying?" he asked, bracing himself for the harsh reality. "Hiroshi, I know this is hard to hear, but I have to be honest with you. Sophia married you for your money, and both she and Mateo are waiting for you to pass away so they can inherit your fortune." As my words sank in, Hiroshi's disbelief turned into shock and confusion. "No, Mei Ling, that can't be true. Sophia loves me and Mateo loves me too. They wouldn't do that. Are you sure you're being honest with me? Maybe it's you who's trying to deceive me. With determination, I assured him, Hiroshi, I wouldn't bring this up without evidence. I recorded their conversations, and you can hear it for yourself. Ask any Spanish-speaking person you know to confirm what they're saying. I then airdropped the recordings to Hiroshi's phone, letting him uncover the truth for himself. Days passed, and the tension between Hiroshi, Sophia, and Mateo grew thicker. I gave Hiroshi space to process everything. Then, one day, he pulled me aside, his face showing a mix of acceptance and gratitude. I owe you an apology. I doubted you, blinded by my love for Sophia. But after talking to my Spanish-speaking friends and listening to those recordings, I believe you. I can't believe they said such awful things about me. What did I do to deserve this? I know, Hiroshi, it's a lot to take in, and I'm sorry, but I felt you needed to know the truth. I've decided to get an annulment. I'm old, May. I can't waste time with people who don't care about me. It's just hard to believe you'll be leaving so soon. Leaving sounds like the right move. I think you should do it. This will be my last night here. Tomorrow, I'll go and won't contact Sophia and Mateo until I'm ready to start the annulment process. But for now, I think I need a break. You deserve real love and peace, Hiroshi, and so do I. With that, Hiroshi and I hugged, and then we both went our separate ways. The next day, just as he said, Hiroshi was gone. He packed his things and left, leaving Sophia and Mateo confused and free to keep talking badly about him. As I put away the dishes, I could hear Sophia and Mateo in the nearby living room. Their insults towards Hiroshi made me furious. Why were they being so cruel? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. With a surge of confidence, I decided to confront them about their hurtful behavior. Enough was enough. I know exactly what you've been saying about Hiroshi in your secret Spanish conversations, I said firmly. Sophia's face went pale, and she looked shocked. Mateo tried to act innocent. You don't know what you're talking about, he insisted. At that moment, I unleashed a side of me they had never seen before. Speaking fluent Spanish, I confronted them directly. Don't underestimate me. I've understood everything you two have been saying for the past 3 weeks. You've been insulting and disrespecting Hiroshi since he entered our lives. Mateo looked embarrassed, avoiding eye contact. They were caught in their lies. Finally, Mateo spoke up, his voice filled with curiosity, regret, and perhaps even hurt. Why didn't you tell me you could speak Spanish? You're really good. I gave a bitter smile. I was embarrassed by my imperfect Spanish, but now I see that it helped me uncover the truth about your true intentions towards Hiroshi. Their eyes widened in shock, struggling to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Sophia's voice shook as she asked, What do you mean, Mei-ling? I took a deep breath, revealing the truth bit by bit. I've told Hiroshi everything. He's on vacation now, away from this toxic environment. And because of what he's learned, he's going to pursue an annulment. So you won't get the money. Confusion and panic filled the room as Sophia and Mateo realized the consequences of their actions. The realization that their pursuit of Hiroshi's wealth had been fruitless left them stunned. You see, Sophia and Mateo, greed and manipulation may have clouded your judgment temporarily. But in the end, the truth won out. Hiroshi's fortune will never be yours. Your betrayal shattered his love and trust. As the reality of their actions sank in, Sophia and Mateo faced the consequences of their greed and deceit. The facade they had built around Hiroshi crumbled, and their dreams of an easy fortune vanished. In that moment, I stood firm, knowing I had spoken up for what was right, even if it strained our family's fragile harmony. Unfortunately, the damage had been done, and tension lingered between Mateo, Sophia, and me. Realizing the toxicity of the situation, I knew I couldn't stay any longer. If they could treat Hiroshi like that, who knows what they said about me? Their true colors had been exposed, and I couldn't ignore the toxicity in our relationship. Quietly, I started planning my exit. I reached out to Hiroshi for guidance and support. He, being the kind soul he was, encouraged me and even offered financial help to start anew. He knew I deserved better than the toxic environment we were in. I waited for the right moment to tell them I was leaving. The tension in the house was thick, with Mateo and Sophia carrying the weight of their failed scheme. They were angry and resentful, hiding any remorse they might have felt. With my preparations complete, I gathered the courage to make a clean break. The perfect moment came, and with my bags packed and determination in my heart, I faced Matteo and Sofia. I calmly told them that their actions had destroyed the trust and love between us. Staying in such a toxic environment would only hurt us more. Their faces twisted with anger and regret as they realized the consequences of their behavior. In that moment, I made my decision to leave. Standing tall, I asserted my worth and declared my independence. Their attempts to persuade me otherwise were futile. I had made up my mind, and nothing could change it. With a final farewell, I walked away from the toxicity that had plagued our lives, stepping into a new chapter. As I journeyed towards self-discovery and freedom, I carried the lessons learned with me. No longer would I be confined by others' expectations and judgments. I had found my voice and would use it to shape my destiny, leaving behind the negativity that once consumed me. It was time to embrace my strength and forge a path true to myself.
It was just a normal morning during the holiday, with the sun shining bright, hinting at a fun day ahead. I was trying to get my son Aaron ready for his baseball game when everything changed suddenly. As I opened the door, I was stunned to see my husband Mark standing there. The same husband who had disappeared without a trace 3 years ago. "This is our home," he stated firmly, but with a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Before I could fully comprehend his return, another person appeared behind him. Clara, my sister-in-law. Seeing her made my stomach twist with unease. "We're here to take custody of Aaron," Clara declared, her words dripping with false kindness. I had often wondered about this exact situation, remembering how Mark and Clara had vanished around the same time. It seemed too coincidental to be true. But with the chaos of daily life and limited resources, I hadn't been able to investigate further. Lost in these thoughts, I barely noticed Aaron's voice behind me. "Mom, who are you talking to?" My heart sank. There he stood, my brave son, unaware of the storm brewing. Clara turned her predatory smile toward him. "It's nice to meet you, Aaron. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time." Her words churned my stomach. It was the same voice that had charmed everyone, hiding the manipulative and cruel nature I knew too well, the voice I had hoped to never hear again. Confused, Aaron looked at me and then back at them. "Dad, why are you here? And who is she?" He edged closer to me, sensing the tension instinctively. Mark and Clara stood there, looking stunned and caught off guard, clearly not prepared for this confrontation. Before they could gather themselves, Aaron spoke up, his voice filled with anger. "We're leaving, so move." It was then that Mark and Clara noticed something behind me, and their faces turned pale. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Standing there was my daughter Elise, cradled in Aaron's arms. Mark's eyes widened in shock, darting between Elise and me. "Mark, Clara," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "3 years ago, you disappeared without a word. I was left to pick up the pieces, raise Aaron, and face an unexpected pregnancy." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Clara's eyes narrowed, but I pressed on. "I'm not the same person you abandoned. I fought hard to build a life for my children and me, and I won't let you come back to ruin that." Their faces showed shock, disbelief, and perhaps a hint of guilt. But it was too late for guilt. The wounds they caused were too deep. "Please leave," I said firmly. "You have no right to be here." Mark started to speak, likely with some excuse or plea, but I didn't want to hear it. I closed the door on them, on the past they represented. Turning back to my children, I saw Aaron looking at me with newfound respect, and Elise oblivious to the turmoil. I took a deep breath, steadying my racing heart. This was just the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and I was prepared to fight for my family's future. The days that followed Mark and Clara's unwelcome visit were filled with a whirlwind of emotions and memories, threatening to overwhelm me like a tidal wave. I found myself going back to the difficult times after Mark disappeared, the nights when I couldn't sleep for worry, and the hours spent wondering what I could have done differently. Aaron struggled the most. Once a happy and outgoing kid, he became quiet and distant, his sparkle fading. I remembered how he'd push away his dinner, beg to skip school events, and give me cold looks instead of his usual warm smiles. It hurt to see him like that, but I didn't know how to help him. While I dwelled on those memories, Elise's innocent laughter filled the house, a sharp contrast to the turmoil inside me. She was my unexpected joy, a beacon of light during Mark's betrayal. Her birth gave me strength and vulnerability all at once. One night, as I tucked Aaron into bed, he looked at me seriously. "Mom, why did Dad leave us? Did we do something wrong?" His question felt like a punch to the gut. "No, honey, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense, and it's not because of you." But why did he come back with Aunt Clara? His confusion broke my heart. I sighed, trying to find the right words. "I don't know why they came back, but I do know that we're a family. You, me, and Elise. We'll face this together." He nodded slowly, his young face full of worries no child should have. "I trust you, Mom. I just wish things were like before." I kissed his forehead, whispering, "I know, my love, I wish that too." The next day, a call from my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, snapped me out of my thoughts. "Lauren, we need to talk about your legal options. Mark and Clara's accusation is unfounded, but we need to prepare a case." I listened intently, my thoughts racing. This was my chance to fight back, to ensure that Mark and Clara couldn't harm us anymore. "Let's go for it," I declared firmly. "I need to safeguard my children, and I won't allow them to be manipulated by whatever game Mark and Clara are playing." Mr. Thompson's voice was reassuring. "You're making the right choice. I'll start getting the paperwork ready. We'll show them that they can't just push you around." As I ended the call, a sense of determination settled over me. Mark and Clara had underestimated me, thinking I'd crumble under their pressure. But they were mistaken. I was stronger now, forged by the challenges I'd faced. I glanced at Elise playing nearby, and knew I'd do whatever it took to protect them. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice for my children and myself. Mark and Clara had ignited a fierce protective instinct in me, and I was prepared to fight back with all my might. As weeks passed, my resolve solidified like steel. I braced myself for the legal battle ahead, but nothing could have prepared me for the emotional warfare to come. Mark and Clara, like vultures circling, began their campaign to wear me down. One afternoon, picking up Aaron from school, I found them waiting, casting a shadow over the sunny day. Clara's voice dripped with false sweetness as she greeted Aaron. "Hi, sweetie. We've missed you so much." Aaron clung to my hand, his body tense. "Why are you here?" he whispered. Mark stepped forward, feigning concern. "We just wanted to see you, son. We're family too, you know." Anger surged within me. "You forfeited the right to call yourselves family when you abandoned him," I snapped, pulling Aaron closer. Clara's facade cracked, her eyes narrowing. "Lauren, you can't keep him from us. We have rights." "Rights? You have no rights here," I shot back, my tone icy. "You made your choice 3 years ago. Now you have to live with it." Mark's face contorted with anger. "You think you're so perfect, Lauren. You're just a bitter woman who couldn't keep her husband happy." Aaron's grip on my hand tightened, his body trembling. "Let's go, Aaron," I said, leading him away, but Clara wasn't finished. "You'll regret this, Lauren. We'll get what we want, as we always do." Their threats lingered as we walked away, but I refused to show them any fear. I had to stay strong for Aaron and Elise. That night, their words echoed in my mind as I lay in bed. The thought of losing Aaron to them was unbearable. I couldn't let it happen. I had to be sharper, tougher. The next day, I met with Mr. Thompson, my resolve like armor. "I want full custody of Aaron, and I want Mark and Clara to have no visitation rights," I stated firmly. Mr. Thompson nodded. "It'll be a tough fight, but I'm confident we can win. You're a great mother, Lauren. The court will recognize that." As the legal preparations progressed, I found an unexpected ally at home, Aaron. One evening, he approached me, his young face serious. "Mom, I want to tell the judge I want to stay with you. Dad and Aunt Clara, they're not really my family." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Aaron. That means everything to me." The day of the court hearing arrived like a gathering storm. I walked into the courtroom with Aaron beside me, ready to defend our future. During the proceedings, Clara tried to play the loving aunt, but her words rang hollow. Mark acted like a remorseful father, yet his eyes betrayed his true intentions. When Aaron spoke, his voice steady and resolute, the truth shone through. I want to stay with my mom. She's been there for me when no one else was. The judge's decision was like a ray of hope. Full custody granted to me with no visitation rights for Mark and Clara. Leaving the courtroom, Mark seethed with anger, and Clara's eyes glinted with malice. But their reactions didn't matter. Aaron and I had prevailed together. While the victory in court brought a brief sense of peace, it was short-lived. Mark and Clara, wounded and desperate, became more dangerous. They launched a smear campaign, spreading lies and rumors about me in our community. I never expected the psychological battle that ensued. One evening, Aaron returned from school, his eyes filled with tears he refused to shed. "Mom, kids at school are saying you took me from Dad, that you're mean for keeping me away from him." His words shattered me. "Aaron, you know that's not true. Everything I've done is to keep you and Elise safe." He nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. "I know, Mom, but it's tough. They just don't understand." I held him close, feeling his trembling frame. "I know it's hard, sweetheart, but we'll endure. We're stronger than their lies." As days passed, the rumors turned uglier. Clara, always sharp-tongued, now wielded her words like a weapon, seeking to dismantle my world. I knew I had to fight back, yet I hesitated to stoop to their level. Then one day, Mark appeared at my workplace, feigning remorse. "Lauren, can't we talk, for Aaron's sake?" His words dripped with venom, his facade transparent. "There's nothing to discuss, Mark. You made your choice. Now you live with it." He gripped my arm tightly. "You're destroying my life. Lauren, you and that kid." I pulled away, my voice steady. "No, Mark, you did that to yourself." As I walked away, his parting threat sent a chill down my spine. "This isn't over, Lauren. I won't give up so easily." The legal win secured custody of Aaron for me, but it didn't put an end to the conflict. Mark and Clara persisted, and I could see how it affected Aaron. He was caught in a battle he couldn't grasp, torn between his biological father and the mother who had never let him down. One evening, Aaron approached me, his face filled with uncertainty. "Mom, what if Dad changes? What if he wants to be a real dad?" His words struck a chord. "Aaron, I understand he's your father, and it's natural to hope for that. But we must see people for who they are, not who we wish them to be." There was a moment of silence before Aaron looked up at me, his eyes clear. "I understand. I just wish things were different." I embraced him, murmuring, "I wish the same, Aaron. I truly do." Amidst the ongoing battle, my focus remained on Aaron and Elise. They were my pillars, the reason I fought relentlessly. And I'd do anything to shield them, to give them a life free from the shadows cast by Mark and Clara's deceit. Their relentless campaign turned darker, veering into harassment. They seemed omnipresent, at my workplace, near Aaron's school, always lingering, always observing. It became a psychological siege, its weight bearing down on me daily. Yet, I refused to be cowed. It was time to retaliate, to show them they couldn't disrupt our lives without repercussions. I arranged a meeting with Mr. Thompson, my determination unwavering. "Mr. Thompson, it's time for more decisive legal action. I want to pursue a restraining order against Mark and Clara, and I want to sue them for harassment and defamation," I asserted. Mr. Thompson agreed wholeheartedly. "I believe that's a prudent step, Lauren. Their behavior is intolerable, and they must face the legal consequences." The legal battles were arduous, but I remained steadfast. In court, Mark portrayed himself as the victim, a man unfairly treated by his vengeful ex-wife. Clara, ever the performer, shed tears over being deprived of a role in her nephew's life. However, their theatrics couldn't obscure the truth. The judge saw through their charade and granted the restraining order. Furthermore, they were instructed to compensate for the harm caused by their defamatory actions. Leaving the courtroom, Mark seethed with anger, while Clara's eyes smoldered with unspoken threats. Yet, this time, I refused to be intimidated. The law was on my side. Their defeat in court failed to extinguish their vendetta. If anything, it seemed to stoke their malice further. One day, I received a chilling call from Mark. You think you've won, Lauren? You think you can ruin my life and walk away? I'll ensure you regret this, he spat over the phone. I gritted my teeth, suppressing the fear his words ignited. You brought this upon yourself, Mark. I'm merely safeguarding my family. You haven't seen the end of me, Lauren. This isn't finished, he snarled before disconnecting. His threat lingered in the air like poison, but I refused to let it weaken me. Aaron and Elise were my top priority. They were my world, and I'd do whatever it took to shield them from Mark and Clara's cruelty. However, as days turned into weeks, the constant strain started to wear me down. The perpetual watchfulness, the dread of what Mark might do next, the weight of single motherhood, it consumed me entirely. One evening, as I tucked Elise into bed, Aaron approached me, his expression serious. Mom, are we going to be okay? Dad sounded really angry on the phone. I enveloped him in a hug, my heart breaking for the burden he carried. We'll be okay, Aaron. I won't let anything happen to us, I promise. Yet, even as I uttered those words, I knew the battle was far from over. Mark and Clara loomed like a looming storm, and I had to be prepared for whatever they threw our way. The weeks post-court ruling were fraught with tension and vigilance. Mark and Clara, constrained by the restraining order, retreated into the shadows, their silence more unsettling than their threats. I sensed this lull was just the calm before another storm. Then it struck. Clara, in a desperate move, staged a public spectacle. While I was grocery shopping, she emerged out of nowhere, hurling accusations. You're a monster, Lauren. You've torn our family apart. Clara's cries drew the attention of bystanders. I stood firm, my voice unwavering. Clara, you need to leave. You're violating the restraining order. Enraged, she spat back. I don't care. The world needs to see your true colors. But her theatrics backfired. The store manager, recognizing the disruption, called the police. As they escorted a hysterical Clara away, her facade of the wronged aunt crumbled. This public meltdown proved to be the tipping point. The police charged Clara with violating the restraining order and causing a public disturbance. Mark, too, faced repercussions. His involvement in the harassment and defamation, now laid bare, led to his arrest. As I witnessed their apprehension, a twinge of pity stirred within me. They had plummeted into their own abyss, a pit of lies and animosity they had dug themselves. Yet this feeling was swiftly eclipsed by a sense of justice. They were finally being held accountable for their actions. In the aftermath, the community's perception shifted. The truth about Mark and Clara's deceit and manipulation came to light. Those who had once whispered behind my back now extended their apologies and support. Aaron, witnessing his father and aunt's downfall, grappled with conflicting emotions. Mom, is it wrong to feel relieved about Dad and Aunt Clara getting arrested? I squeezed his hand, empathizing with his inner turmoil. It's okay to feel relieved, Aaron. They caused us a lot of pain. It's natural to seek justice. The battle that had consumed us for months appeared to be at an end. Mark and Clara, once formidable adversaries, were now diminished. Their ability to harm us had been stripped away. As I tucked Aaron and Elise into bed that night, a sense of tranquility settled over me. We had weathered the storm and emerged triumphant. Our future lay before us, bright and full of promise. Though life had thrust us into turbulent waters, we had learned to navigate the tempest. Now, it was time to relish the calm, to embrace the fresh beginning.